or coincidence that in politics, in transnational corporations, in banking, in education, in all these areas, the incessant centralization of power has gone on and on and on and on. We're seeing it now politically with the European Union here. You know, the British government can hardly breathe now without getting permission from Europe. Where's their power? Their power is in the people saying, oh, well, I don't like it, but it's the law, and so we better obey it. You know, okay, we've had a discussion, and we've decided we're going to introduce a law today where we're going to take our children, your children from you, okay, and we're going to put them in a national education centre, and we're going to control them, and maybe you can see them twice a year, okay? We're passing the legislation this afternoon. Would you accept that? Would parents accept that? What would they do? They'd stand up and say, we're not having this. So there is a point then where people en masse will say, enough. It's just a case of when are we going to say that? Are we going to say it now, while we still have some time to bring an end to this nonsense, or are we going to start saying we're not having that at the point when they're introducing legislation to take our children away? And by then, people, brave people who've stood up and been counted in the years before, while the others just look the other way, they're actually not going to be around to speak on behalf of the people having their children taken away. So, are we going to make a stand now and draw a line in the sand and say here and no further, in fact we're going to roll this back? Or are we going to wait until it's got really, really extreme, by which time there'll be so much infrastructure in place that drawing a line in the sand will be a serious challenge? And it's no good. I said to some policemen in Parliament Square a few months ago, ask yourself, when your child says to you, Mummy and Daddy, what were you doing when the police state was introduced? Oh, well, I was watching the telly, honey. Or in the policeman's case, I was helping to introduce it, dear. That's the situation we're facing. And you know, if people don't like it, well, they just have to do the other thing, because this is how it is. And we either face it now, or we face it a little bit further along the road, when if we think it's not very good now, it'll be a bloody nightmare by then. It's time to lift the arse off the sofa and bring an end to this nonsense, because otherwise we're just building our own prison cell or sitting around while someone does it. Is that sensible? I think not. The great buzz phrase in global politics is now international law. What is international law? It is a law that everyone on the planet has to obey. Orgasmic and indeed essential for anyone who wants a global dictatorship. Laws that everyone on the planet has to obey. International law is the means of imposing the dictatorship. And it's being done covertly by this pyramid within pyramid system. And it's this Russian doll pyramid system that allows the same legislation to be introduced in different countries all over the world and to be used in the same way, because it's all answerable to the top of the pyramid. That's how it works, and it's dead simple, because it is essential that as few people as possible are aware of what is actually the game, what is actually the outcome they're leading towards, because people in general don't want themselves and their children to be enslaved by some malevolent centralized global dictatorship. So as many people as possible have to be kept out of the loop, and this compartmentalization allows them to do it. I met a CIA scientist some years ago now, back in 1997. He wanted to let people know what was coming, and in his situation it was impossible for him to do so. I said to him, if you are so against what's happening, why don't you just refuse to do it? And he opened his shirt, and on his chest was a see-through plastic sachet, like a shampoo sachet, with an orangey golden liquid in it. And he said, this is why I can't speak out. And these things are known within the CIA as patches. Someone's been patched. And what happened was that this man joined the CIA because of his genius in the area of magnetics and electrics and what have you. And he thought he was serving his country, the compartmentalized pyramid. And he then realized that this agenda for the global dictatorship, the global police state, was no conspiracy theorist fantasy. It was actually true. And he refused to work for them. He then left home one day and has missing time. He remembers nothing until he woke up on a kind of medical type bench in a room. And as he got his faculties back, he realized there was something stuck to his chest. And it was this see-through sachet with this liquid in it. And what it happens is that their bodies are manipulated in their lost time period to need the drug in this patch to survive. And it has to be replaced every 72 hours. And if they do not comply by using their genius to advance the technology necessary for global human control, then the patch is not replaced and they die a very desperately horrible death. And he told me about the fact that technology exists to create abundant growth in deserts without water by resonating the natural electrical fields of the plants so they grow so fast, as he put it, at its optimum it's like a time-lapse photograph. There is no need for hunger on this planet. Hunger is not there by the fact that it has to happen. It's there by design for a very simple reason. When people have abundance, they have choice. And when people have choice, they have freedom. Abundance equals choice equals freedom. So what the elite do is they manipulate scarcity. So scarcity equals dependency equals control. And he said there's no need for hunger because the technology exists to create abundant growth anywhere. He also said to me, tell people that if they say no to one thing, say no to the microchip. Because he said it's not just about electronic tagging, it's about the ability to manipulate people's behavior, mentally, emotional, and physical health from a distance just by sending signals to the chip. So you put all that together, and that's the kind of world we're going to be living in if we allow this incessant process of imposing the police state to get to the goal that it has been aiming towards for so long. The greatest form of human manipulation, in fact there's two, but they're interconnected, are what I call problem, reaction, solution, and the totalitarian tiptoe. Problem, reaction, solution is the term I coined to describe a system whereby you create the problem. 9/11's a classic. You don't even need a real problem. There is a version of this which I call no problem reaction solution, like weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. You only need the perception of a problem. You get people to believe there's a problem, and a problem needs a solution. And so you get the people who covertly create problems like 9/11 and terrorism, and they then blame someone else to hide the fact that they're really the ones behind it. They then use a pathetic mainstream media, an unquestioning mainstream media, to tell the people the version of the event, 9/11, whatever it is, that the elite want the people to believe, i.e. Osama bin Laden from a cave in Afghanistan orchestrated the attacks on September the 11th. You know, I've just seen Donald Duck walk behind you. And then, to protect the people from this terrorism, which we've created, don't tell anybody though, they then offer the solutions to the problems they've created. And those solutions are to change society in precisely the way that the agenda demands. And what happens with problem reaction solution and the naive people, thanks to the naive people that believe it's for their protection, things that changes in society that the people would normally oppose by reflex action are either not opposed on the scale it normally would be, or are allowed or encouraged to go through because they are a solution to a perceived problem. And you hear it all the time. Well, I know it's taking our freedoms away and all that, but, you know, what can you do? You've got to protect people from the terrorists. And what we are going to see more of as these years unfold is more chaos, problems created to create more fear, because that's the four-letter word that controls the world. Once people are in fear, they look outside of themselves for someone or something to protect them from what they've been manipulated to fear. A population or a person who's not in fear is a nightmare to manipulate and control. Someone who's in fear, piece of cake. So en masse, it's about creating chaos, it's about creating fear, and then offering ways out of the chaos, and those ways out will be more and more imposition of the police state to protect the people and to bring order out of chaos.